Anybody else?
Nobody?
Well, we can get started.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the planning board. How about the minutes? Anybody got anything on the minutes?
I thought they were great. I thought it's a small book.
Talk a lot less. Yeah, the book part was, the Pinnacle project, just to document that,
Was that the Pinnacle project?
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything. I didn't have any.
Anybody got any comments?
Nope.
No? All right, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written,
Second.
as submitted. Second?
Second.
Tim seconds, all those in favor? Okay. So, next is the lot size averaging language and the whole concept. Any thoughts?
Did the proposal come from anywhere?
Yeah, well, it came, well, Tim suggested
I mean, was there rationale up to, like, what was your thinking behind the numbers?
the thinking behind the numbers was to allow, it came out of hearing the computations during the Pinnacle subdivision, and that, if I recall correctly, like the maximum size was gonna be like 1,900 square feet, seemed unreasonable, so allowing more, but not allowing monumentally sized buildings.
Mhm.
So I'd say that's the rationale.
Yeah, right.
Is that really, so that's what that's saying? Because the way I was trying to understand exactly what you're saying. What's the rationale? Why are we trying to do this? Because we've done it before. Instead of just using table 5.1, we have footnotes and other paragraphs that limit beyond table 5.1. And that's what this is doing, right? If I'm
Well,
reading
this is
correctly.
actually loosening,
Yeah, this is making it bigger.
this is making it bigger.
Because I
Okay.
think, Rusty,
Lot coverage, I mean,
if you lot size average, then you're limited by the size of the lot that you're creating. So if you're creating a really small lot, then it makes it,
Well,
but if you have
yeah,
maximum lot coverage up to 4,500 square feet. And if you go to the table, isn't that like 12% is the max?
yeah, but this is lot size averaging, so the reason that there was like this 1,900 square foot maximum is because we're dealing with reduced lot sizes, not normal lot sizes. So all these figures are then related to this much smaller, and correct me if I'm wrong in any of this, David, this much smaller lot size. So in order to get around that, we're saying even though the lot size is that smaller and would be limited because of that, we're making it bigger.
Okay, I guess.
right.
Well, maybe.
So I'm not following, so when this happens, just so I understand what happens here, you take your lot size averaging, you still have to create the number, so you have to take 4 lots.
Right.
And now your lot size average. So you take the amount that was buildable on those 4 lots.
No. When you create a lot in lot size averaging, let's say you create a lot that is, or you create 4 lots that's 1 acre each, and then you have the remainder, because you have some.
Don't you already have, don't you already need the 4 lots? No.
Now, you need to prove that you could do a conventional subdivision of the 4 lots. There is nothing then that says you can build out what you could build out on those 4 lots when you do the lot size averaging.
Okay.
So, you base the dimensional controls, for your lot sized average lots, your smaller lots, on their lot size. And so you could end up with having a very small building footprint. Now currently, you can go to the zoning board and say, hey, I did these lot size averaging lots. Planning board approved it, but they're too small for me to build anything on. I would like the zoning board to approve greater lot size, so it's,
And
instead of.
the criteria for the, special exception would be, you'd have to fulfill all those requirements, and there's something in there that's saying that if it needs planning board input, that would be included too, so it gets a little,
Right, so it's basically to try to give a developer some numbers up front, instead of saying, okay, you can have this subdivision, you've done all this work for this subdivision, now you gotta go to the zoning board and see if they'll let you build a building of the size you want. Instead of doing that, saying up front, the planning board can say, well, we can approve at the time of the subdivision a larger building footprint and a larger lot coverage than would be allowed.
Right, so Rusty, in other words, these numbers would be for no matter what size the lot is. In other words, these would apply to no matter what size the lot is.
Yeah, you're assuming that you could then come in with, let's say you had 20 acres.
Yep.
And you come in with a quarter-acre lot, a quarter-acre lot, a quarter-acre lot, is that what, and then those are the small lots?
Yep.
And that would be lot size averaging?
Yep.
Because you would take into account how many lots the larger piece already had, so you could have those 4 1/4 acre lots.
Yep.
Because
But a
we're
quarter
trying to
acre is not going to
encourage.
give you that much building footprint.
No, I'm just
Yeah.
throwing that number,
No,
I just
and that's-
understand what I'm saying, so it's, because this came down to the 12%, it's like less than an acre, so that's why I was like,
yeah, I don't know, it's confusing.
And the 12% is there's a maximum of 7,000 square feet of footprint, no matter how big the lot is. So if 12% is over 7,000, doesn't matter, you only get 7,000.
so it's 14, but, oh,
No, 7,000, at least in the rural district. And that's one of the issues I have with this, is that it doesn't account for other districts. It really is.
So
If you
what,
look at, table 5.1 gives you the percentages, but when you look at building footprint, later on in section 5,
yes,
it talks about maximum 7,000 square feet, or it's 2% is the building footprint in the rural district, or 7,000 feet, whichever is smaller.
So, my question is, say, some place like Pinnacle Project would wanna have a long driveway, parking for 6 units and a building, is that gonna be enough lot coverage to accommodate something we know might come before us?
Well, the parking area would not be part of the lot coverage in the rural district, because it is, only commercial parking areas are included in the rural district under lot coverage.
Well, this is,
It's residential as far as I'm concerned.
it is residential, yep,
yeah, it's residential.
so they could have a parking lot any size they
Yeah.
want.
Now, you get into the Lime Common and commercial districts, then the parking
Parking
lot,
lots count.
and they do count. So
But the potential
that's why I'm saying I'm not, I don't think that this covers all districts well. I think that there needs to be at least some more consideration. I think in the East Lyme district, if you were to do a lot size averaging subdivision and put several houses along the road, save all your back acreage, but you might be able to create 5-acre lots along the road. It's 15-acre minimum there, so it would, lot size averaging, you could do 5-acre lots. But this would make for some rather small built houses. Now, that may be what the board wants.
Well, you mean relative to the reduction?
yeah, because if you had a 5-acre lot,
Yeah, but if you're,
Now the-
if
now
you're
the 12.
reducing it down to, if it's becoming half acre, an acre, you run into the same problem.
Right, but I could see it if you had, if you were doing larger lots,
Like what?
5 acres. Is that,
Oh, okay,
You know, your-
that your lot size averaging was the 5 acre.
No, your lot size averaging has
Created
created
the 5
5-acre
yeah,
lots.
yeah.
Right.
Then the
This
scale of
one-
the building on the lot, it seems to me would be reasonable to be,
So what if we had language that said something to the, I don't know the exact wording, but something to the effect, unless you qualified for more.
Whichever's greater,
Um,
this or.
Well, you have
whichever's
the
greater.
option, or, yeah, however, but if you qualified for more, based on your lot size, you get that.
Yeah, yeah, or as Rusty said,
That's-
whichever's
That's,
greater.
I was because I was going the other way, I was coming up with 5 acres and saying, well, now we're restricting, but you're trying to say the motivation.
The motivation is the
to
opposite.
increase it.
Right,
To-
because we're trying to encourage lot size averaging.
So then you'd say whichever's greater,
Something along those lines.
45, yeah, they can
Yeah.
allow up to 4,500, which,
Or whatever,
whatever's in
or-
5.1.
But we'd have to come up with exactly that language.
Right, yeah, that would make perfect sense to say,
Okay,
you know,
so-
whichever is larger, the,
Whichever is greater.
And then what about the Lime Common District with parking lots and stuff? Would that, the 4,500 square feet, is that enough in the Lime
Well-
Common District?
So help me understand, I was considered, I was interested in that when I read this, gotten into the table 5.1. Why did we, what is the rationale behind 6,000 square foot maximum floor area versus the 14 everywhere else?
From 1989, I mean, I have to ask the people who came up
But
with
does it still apply? I mean, based on the study we had and everything else, does it matter why not 14 all the way across? Is what
I think that they looked at is, existing buildings around the common, what we had, just to keep it kind of the same scale.
I think that's,
Yeah.
I mean, we have some that are certainly greater than that.
yeah, I think they probably looked at that, the
They
lot
also
size,
went
to
in.
be able to, you know, what, you look at the Lime Common, the lots are a lot smaller than when you start getting out into the rural district.
Yeah,
And
sure.
so I think you know, they're trying to keep,
But
the
they're
idea
not
was to
all.
keep
But
this.
The interesting thing is that they're not all.
No, they're not, but
And
average.
therefore, by doing this, you've taken
Well,
those
those
larger
are, the
lots
ones that are
apart.
there are already there, so they wouldn't be.
Most of them are already there.
They're
No, no,
already-
but I'm saying, that any lots, from that, I was also looking at the study and saying, well, wait a minute, there's some bigger lots here.
Yeah,
And by doing this, we've limited what those lots can do relative to their neighbors.
well,
Um,
you mean the ones that are already there, the grandfathered
But I
ones?
think it's, the grandfather,
Or-
the larger
or-
lots, though, you're also trying to keep the scale of the buildings the same throughout the district. So you're trying to,
Okay. well, I'm
again,
just-
I wasn't here when it was done, but it's
Yeah, but
that,
just the
usually
differences
from
in what-
Yeah, I
everything
think
I've
that's-
read,
I
that the
think that's
rationale is to,
true.
you know, you look at the district you're creating, and you say, well, what's the scale of the buildings, and then try to match that scale in your zoning.
Okay.
And that keeps your, everything in scale, and all of a sudden you don't have, you know, these massive buildings, or somebody buys an existing building, takes it down, and then puts up, you know, a massive building, you know, it helps keep
But
that.
we allow
scale.
that in the rural district, 14,000, I
The
don't,
lots are
my head
bigger.
doesn't have
Yeah,
14,000.
the rural
square
district
feet.
is, I mean, you can read whatever it is, the summaries or the purposes, the intents of all the districts, and the rural district makes sense for it to be bigger than a
You tend to have
compact, than a
larger lots.
compact zone.
And again, the zoning allows for much larger lots. You know, in the Lime Common District, your minimum lot size is an acre, whereas the rural district is 3 or 5 acres, depending on what road you're on.
It's a relative scale, basically.
Okay, I just thought it was fairly significant difference.
Yeah, it is.
But I mean,
It's
the
less
lot
than
size
half.
minimums are,
Yeah,
Or-
in general,
5
the
times
different
larger.
districts have different
Mhm.
elements. So, everybody's general thoughts about this, good thing, bad thing, indifferent, why are we doing this, whatever,
Good thing.
good thing?
Yeah, well, I think it's,
I think it's appropriate.
With the edited language, it
Yeah, yeah,
becomes greater.
yeah.
That's what, I thought it was the other way around when I read it, I was like, why would we do that?
Okay.
But-
Yeah, that's a good point. And, so, a question, do you think that it's necessary to say in other dimensional controls of table 5.1? Or is that already covered? You know, by,
I just today had somebody There's actually Crossroads, and they're talking about their variance. And he was rather insistent that when you read the definition of lot, or lot size, and at the variances, if we're going area adjustments, A through D above shall not apply in determining the lot size or the dimensional requirements of Article 5 in the case of one minor subdivision. And they say, well, we're doing a minor subdivision, so that means the setbacks aren't. Yeah, well, that's where and he said, well, I was on the zoning board in Hanover, and I believe that this is the way it reads. And,
So,
anyway,
Well, that settles that.
well,
Right, well,
you're the zoning
right,
administrator,
and
and
no, I
the
told-
zoning board interprets any
Exactly, that's what I told him, that,
he
you know, I
has
said,
with
my
your
interpretation is that setbacks are not
Right.
included in that, and that
Right.
if he wanted to ask the board for an administrative appeal instead of a
So is
variance.
he trying to get his lot, a freebie lot?
Basically, yeah, but what he's trying to do is, saying, you know, their big issue, they need a variance for the setbacks, because they're trying to run that lot line right down next to all the
Right, yeah,
buildings. And so he felt that if that was the case, then the setbacks didn't apply to any lot that was a freebie lot.
No, that's not the case at all. The
That
freebie lot, the only
trust
thing
me.
you don't have to deal with is the overlay districts.
And that's
Yeah.
the but
Yeah.
again, trying to get him to understand that, he was insistent that I was wrong, and I said, I'll get you before the board, you
We
can ask him.
just
But
summon Frida back, she can explain it.
So,
But anyway,
getting
that's a
back-
case where, included the dimensional controls, and table 5.1 under dimensional controls, you have the setbacks.
So do you think it's a good idea to have that language, or not?
I would like it to, again, for my own personal, to say something more like the calculated dimensional controls, or something that refers to dimensional controls that are based on the lot size, not necessarily, you know, the.
Well, I guess, I'd like to keep it simple, so should we just take that out and just say lot sizes front, as it is now, lot sizes, frontage, setbacks shall be blah, 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 the property, and on the same, you know, and then go on. Is it necessary to have that in there at all? I mean, is there any advantage? I mean, it seemed like, okay, well, we'll just cover everything by adding that language, but I don't know that it's necessary.
What's the harm?
Well, I don't know, is there harm in having that?
I mean, so this doesn't
Say
apply
you-
just to lot size averaging.
Yeah, it does.
So
It does.
you say that,
Yeah, it is. It's just in lot
This is
size
just lot size
I know,
average.
but it doesn't say that.
Well,
It
yeah,
is
it's in
in the
511D3.
Oh, okay.
you're talking about the rest of 511.
511D3,
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
you
where-
only put part of it in this.
Yeah, the rest
note,
is
and then
just
the
a
rest is in
cetera.
here, yeah.
I
I'm
mean,
just trying to
does-
see, what are we crossing out, what are
Because
we?
it's,
yeah, the only thing that's changed is the language that you all got.
Is that
The rest
just
is-
added? Is this all added, or is it?
Added,
replacing
and
anything?
there was one cross out,
The
which
cross
was
out of and,
the
right?
and.
But everything else is added to the
It
existing.
added to the existing.
So, David, would you prefer that we would add lot width, building footprint, lot coverage, and gross floor area to that list? Rather than
I-
saying in other dimensional
I would,
controls?
you know, just to be, you know, again, and maybe this is just a single case of, you know, somebody trying to, or not understanding,
Right.
and maybe it's not necessary, but I'm just bringing up that I did have that, dealt with that today, and,
I think we might as well just, for the extra couple of words to make it clear, there's not gonna be that argument, to give David's time.
So what would the extra words be?
It just would be, as we go down on table 5.1, you have lot size, then you've got frontage, then you've got setbacks, then you have lot width.
just
then
take this list and put it in.
Well, yeah, but
you-
let's-
Then you have building footprint.
Hold on, lot width, building footprint,
Yep, building, and then lot coverage and
footprint,
gross floor area.
lot coverage,
Because the setbacks are dealt with, because the setbacks between the lots are,
And what was the last one?
Floor coverage,
Floor area.
floor area, sorry.
Just floor area?
Floor area.
yeah, those are all the calculated.
These are-
Okay, so that would be better?
Is that better for you?
That works for me,
Okay,
just
okay,
in that,
okay.
Okay,
That
so
was
I'm
to keep
gonna,
people
I'm gonna
from-
add those and cross out the other stuff. I mean, the dimensional controls in table 5.1,
yeah.
okay? Is
And
that
Joe's
okay
gonna
with
give me
everybody?
a copy of,
Yeah,
All right,
I guess I'm following, but
In
we're
the sentence, the
crossing out, but we're not.
the setbacks from abutting properties, is it?
yeah, and then that's what
where-
I was
where does-
wondering
Where does this
about.
get inserted and then where does this?
Well, this would get inserted in
See.
511D,
Right, three, so
Three.
this is the end of the property, so
Right.
it's here.
and that's what yeah, so in the next line, it says this, it starts dealing with the
Well,
setbacks.
there's the setbacks from abutting properties.
So, is that gonna
Road setback.
kinda confuse things?
not in this case, because I think, you know, again, this is specifically lot size averaging.
Okay. But so is this, cause this is.
Right, no, and that's,
So,
say, this is, you know, first of all, you're only dealing with lot size averaging here, so adding those in, you know, the only time anyone would ever be looking at that is if they were doing a lot size averaging.
okay,
And so it says, here are the things that the planning board can set. And here's the, you know, and, oh, by the way, the interior setbacks, the planning board can
also,
also.
so it's not confusing.
Right.
So, any ideas on how to approach the language, which is essentially saying whichever is greater? I mean, what is it we're actually trying to say? If you have,
So I came in, I apologize, I came in the middle of that conversation and picked up on some of it, but not everything. Can
sure,
someone go over that again?
so, you mean the.
I mean,
lot-
the example I took from David was in the East Lyme district, if the lot size averaging shakes out to 5 acre lots, then is your point that the 1% building footprint is gonna,
It was gonna give you more,
It might give you more, I haven't calculated this
it
all
might
out.
give more than 4,500?
Right.
Yeah.
so,
So we're saying we don't wanna limit it to that.
Okay.
are you figuring it out?
Yeah,
Because, yeah,
just-
maybe that'd just be a good thing to.
Yeah,
But the initial part of the conversation was is that these were meant, the purpose of these was to give us greater than
Yeah.
this table, not less than the table.
Yeah.
But
Well-
it does
well, it
calculate
was
to be
really
less in
to-
certain cases.
It was
and
really
that-
to address giving more where people were gonna, you know, end up, we were gonna give them small lots, which were gonna give them impractically sized, impractically
Yeah, and I remember the
small,
conversations
yeah.
from previous meetings.
Yeah.
yeah. So actually, you know, the rural line, you know, 1% of 5 acres is going to be about 2,100 square feet. So 45 would in fact
Be
be
bigger,
bigger.
a lot significantly bigger.
Twice that.
Yeah.
So maybe we don't need the language, which
Yeah.
would be
Well, it doesn't-
easier.
It doesn't work in the common district though, 'cause, right,
6%
isn't that where?
an acre.
Well,
Well, yeah, I mean, in the,
Where did I come up with the?
in the Lime Common area, you have
Yeah.
6,000 square feet is the maximum for a single acre lot. If you were to drop those down to quarter acre lots,
Right,
then you'd be looking at, 6% of a quarter acre lot.
Yeah, so this would still be more probably.
It'd still be-
yeah, and one thing to keep in mind
yeah.
is
So here, I can,
it gives the planning board the discretion to, allow up to,
6%?
what? No,
Yeah.
up, up to these maximums.
So in this example, do we wanna allow 4,500 square foot building on a quarter acre lot?
Well, no, that's what I'm addressing, is the planning board is guided by the criteria in this section. It can allow up to
Up
a
to.
maximum, but it has the discretion if it doesn't make sense based on the criteria in that area, they could say, well, no, you're only gonna get this. You follow? This isn't saying
You get that.
you get that.
Yeah.
It says that the planning board
Can approve up to
can
that.
approve up
It's
to
not
it.
shall, it's not.
Yeah, and that way, you know, if it makes sense, and I can see where it would make sense, you give them the maximum. But if you're really dealing with a situation where it clearly doesn't make sense, you have the discretion to give less.
Well, do we wanna put any more concrete language, cause we're talking about the case like the Commonwealth quarter acre lots, and the 6% is what, 638 square feet, like you
650,
said? Then, you know, there's a lot of room between 640 square feet and 4,500, and
Yeah,
do
so
we wanna
I,
have tighter controls in there, so this decision is obviously gonna be contentious, right? Do we wanna have it written down in here so that it's not
so it's
a
not
judgment
potential.
call? I mean, that's a lot of judgment to go from
Yeah, that's
600 to 4,500.
a good point. That's a good point.
Especially on the common,
And is there a way to write it that can account for all of these
the lot
cases?
sizes would.
Well, when you say all these cases, it's really in the Lime Common? Can you?
I guess so, I can't think of, I mean, obviously can't go through all of them.
Yeah, cause if you take a quarter acre lot in the common district, and you say 4,500 square feet for just the footprint,
What percentage of
It's a
lot coverage is
10,000
that?
square foot lot.
right, it's 10,000, so you've
Half the
covered
lot.
half the
Right,
lot.
so it's half the lot.
Yeah,
Which is
so we
ridiculous.
could just say accepting the Lime Common District.
What about the commercial district?
But in the
And
common
Lime
district,
Center
we
district.
still wanna allow perhaps more than 650 in the common district, right?
Correct.
Yeah, you kinda have.
Well, the thing is that
Yeah.
once you get counted parking, and this isn't necessarily just a residential use, it could be a commercial subdivision where everybody needs parking.
I'm
Okay,
just wondering if mathematically, what if you had a multiplier? Would that work? In other words, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So that
Yeah, but ours
you
works,
get up to-
it's
to
a
2 times.
progressive thing, you know, because you want more in some districts, and then it should be, you know, graded off so that we don't get huge,
I mean, that's what
the table
This
is.
is- what the
6%
table is, yeah.
is.
This is why.
I know. it's
This
very
is why.
Well, okay,
Well,
so,
look,
but
there's
it
gonna
works
be-
in some districts, it doesn't work in Lime Common.
There's gonna be a
Okay,
compromise
so,
there
and maybe it
somewhere,
doesn't
right?
work in the commercial, but it gives people in the
Well,
rural and the
yeah,
rest of
so,
them,
so
you know,
what
a
we
lot
could,
more
what we could
relief.
do is say accepting the Lime Common District and the Commercial District
Yeah.
Lime
Or
Center
we
district?
can,
and the Lime Center.
or we can leave it like this, and it can be up to the board to determine where the boundary is in the common district.
Yeah, I mean, what your point was, it'll be more contentious, and, you know, it's not like,
It's a subjective call rather than.
It's a
kind of
subjective call,
subjective call on the board.
yeah, which is, you know, always contentious.
Yeah.
So ideally, we'd be as concrete as possible. So, all right, our options are just leave it and let it fly, or come up with concrete numbers for each area, or just accept the three smaller districts. I mean, the three, you know what I mean, not
I think
smaller.
that's fairer, because in a way, what is lots, you know, lot size averaging is about setting aside
Right.
significant pieces of land for conservation, and, you know, those districts,
true.
you probably don't
Don't.
have that ability necessarily,
So this would apply to the
rural,
rural,
East Lyme, and,
but I guess
Not for forest.
linguistically, we should probably be saying this applies except for,
well, let's just say it applies only in these two districts, if we're only gonna have, you know, I don't think it matters for the skiway. And Holt's Ledge, I think it's pretty fully, is that fully developed out there?
Yeah.
There's one lot that's,
There's one lot.
Well, there's one lot, but are they
That's-
gonna lot size
you
average that?
can't, lots, well, I mean, you could, but I don't think we have to worry about,
I think it's only a 2 acre lot that's
Yeah.
I think,
undeveloped.
yeah, I think we should accept,
is that the same in the common district? I mean, do we really have, we have 1 acre zoning in the common district?
I think that this
So can we
doesn't,
really create 4 lots anywhere in the common district or anything
The
like that?
pit,
Just the pit. I think that's the only one. I don't think there's any.
you don't think
other-
Dowd's is big enough?
Well, Dow's is almost like fully developed, so.
It's overly developed.
But you could tear it down, I guess, and start over, but I don't
Yeah,
know why you do
Yeah,
that.
I mean theoretically.
Well, you know,
Suppose,
I hate saying, but you know, yeah, well, I was gonna say.
Well,
you know,
that's right.
Some sort of
That-
active
that
make
stuff
God
happens.
Oh.
that something goes.
oh my gosh, people down on Ockham Ridge in Hanover, they're tearing down those houses that cost $1 million plus.
Really?
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And what are
They're tearing
they- what
those
are they
houses
putting
down.
up?
They're putting up bigger houses.
$2 million houses.
Really?
It's just
I see it here in Lyme.
unbelievable.
And some of those
The
houses
house on
are
River Road
gorgeous.
that's gonna get torn down here
You would
pretty
think.
soon.
You would think they're perfectly fine. There's one house that has a garage, and there's a tunnel connecting the garage to the house, so that they don't have to walk 10 feet from the
Oh,
garage to the
You
house.
gotta have a tunnel.
Outside,
You
yeah.
gotta
Yeah,
have a
they've
tunnel.
got a tunnel.
They gotta have a train in there too?
It's,
From-
no
From
train, no, I
Minnesota.
think no
Conveyor
subway,
belts.
They moved here
but
from Minnesota?
People mover, you know.
Underground or
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, we're losing, well, the River Road houses getting torn down.
Which one?
The one at the end of Wilmot Way,
Really?
you know, where you're going the other way now, but you see where they put a lot of filling in the rear.
Which one's the lot by,
It's the one that goes up, goes west from River Road. It's one of the only ones.
About a mile from the Hanover.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Dead end up there,
Yeah.
So we're saying that this would apply to the rural, mountain and forest, and East Lyme,
Mhm.
and that's it?
Yeah,
But then, at some point in time, you need to deal with the other districts.
maybe.
Well,
Well, I think in the zoning you need, because you know, there's somehow,
Well, are we gonna get lot averaging? I mean, with the
I don't know.
conservation, significant conservation thing? I mean,
realistically, yeah, I think that's a good point. On a practical level, what set asides?
Available lot size averaging in the common district.
We're not gonna add, we're not gonna really care that, we're not gonna want a conservation easement on.
then do you wanna take lot size averaging out of play for those districts? Just be upfront and,
I don't think we have to. I don't see there's any reason to
Nothing
change.
left. If there's nothing left there, if there's only one lot, really, that's the only one, right?
say the commercial district, there might be some, you know, because they're deep and,
It's
they're
possible.
wetland areas and, you know,
It's possible.
well, I mean, look at Purcell's lot.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking
Pondview.
about. Yeah,
Yeah.
3/4 acres in the front of that, using the lot size average of the whole lot in the back.
right,
Yeah,
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 and that wouldn't be so bad, actually.
I was
No, it
gonna say, it
wouldn't.
wouldn't be all that bad.
No.
But it's still, you know,
Or say Danny Bailey's place too.
I think
mean,
they're
That's-
just
that's
inside.
in the- That's in the common district.
No, would be outside, because it's the
That's
Grant
rural,
Brook
that's
is
it,
the,
that's.
the
not
southern
commercial.
end of that.
Yeah, that's not commercial, sorry,
Is
that's
it?
not
That's
commercial.
Yeah,
rural.
rural, yeah, it's
Yeah,
in
it's
the rural
rural,
district.
so we want them to be able to do a lot of averaging if they ever get there, but for commercial, I mean, I could see maybe commercial, but what are the sizes? Then we're dealing with the size issue.
Floor area. 14.
Well, 14,000 is, that would be the biggest, well, if they had small lots, I don't know, I can't really think about that without some, like, examples, and
Numbers,
numbers to drive it. I think it works in those, I
What?
mean, there's no
What are those
reason not to
red
allow it
buildings?
in rural, East Lyme and Mountain Forest
I
right
don't know
now.
off the top of my head.
And then figure out what makes sense for commercial and Lyme Center and Lyme Common, if anything.
later,
Yep,
yeah.
certainly the commercial. There's probably some.
Okay, so is that, everybody feel okay for the time being?
Yeah, I think that's better.
And this would just apply to this language, right? It's not
Mhm.
applying to anything else. Everybody else keeps
Right,
their,
yeah, we don't want,
all right.
it's already complex enough thinking about it, but what we're trying to do is give
So,
relief
so
to people.
what we could say is on the same basis, the planning board may allow the following in the rural, mountain and forest, and blah, blah, blah districts.
Yep.
Okay with everybody?
Yep, now, we do have that cluster provision in the Mountain and Forest District,
Yeah,
right? We
Yeah.
already have that, and so I just don't, I'm not sure if that conflicts with
that's a
what
good
we
point.
have in there, and what, where you're allowed to have 2 lots clustered in the Mountain Forest District? And are there any limitations? I mean, that's kind of a built-in lot averaging, isn't it?
You mean the double density?
Yes, yes. Yes. 38, just number 6 in the same section of lot averaging.
Oh, yeah, double density.
So they get a 10% development area. Now, does development area mean lot coverage?
Let me go see what the,
Look at the definitions.
and there is no such thing in the definitions of what a developed
No.
area.
Yeah,
What's the term?
It says
Development area.
development area, and there is no term for development area.
Oops.
Or do we wanna change that?
yeah, what would you say it meant? You're the zoning inspector.
Yeah, what would you say is
And then
a,
we should change it to whatever that is most closely, I mean, I would say the lot coverage.
Well, I read this as, if you look at A,
Yep.
open space 90%.
Yep.
So that 10% to me is going to be the remainder that you can develop. You can't develop 90% of it, so you get 10%.
so it's a developable area,
It's a developable area.
and is that the
But
term?
you're,
that-
but you're still further limited to whatever they say now about,
So if that was a 100-acre lot, then 10% is 10 acres. It's as if you had a 10-acre lot. And then all the controls that apply to a 10-acre lot would then apply to.
you can, so it already gives you twice the maximum number of lots otherwise permitted. So,
Well, how do you interpret development area, David?
I consider that, in reading this, that it is the remaining 10% of the lot that you can
That's what it says-
develop.
That's what it says in C.
Yeah.
Maximum 10% development.
yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
the development area to me is that 10% that, because 90%'s gotta go into conservation,
So in the context, it's clear what it means.
I think that is.
Yeah.
So, and that then says that in the 10%, you can have 2 lots, and no more?
No, I read this as that, the planning board may approve twice the maximum number of lots otherwise permitted in the mountain and forest conservation district. So, going back to,
50 acre minimum, but, so say you had 200 acres, and you would normally get 4 lots.
Yeah.
So then,
you could get 8
8
lots.
lots,
And so your 8 lots, so you have to, if you're 200 acres, you have 20 acres, that's 10%, so you would,
but
split
the
up
8
your.
lots have to be in the 10% of the development area.
Right, whatever.
I don't think we should allow that, I don't know, well, okay, does it help? Okay, so we're just talking about, and we're not, there's no limitation on lot size then. You can have is 8 lots on
20 acres.
or
you
20
know, given
acres,
20
can be any
20.
size that works.
Yeah.
And then they still need to know how much lot coverage they would get, because otherwise they get 12% maximum lot coverage total divided by 8, so it sounds like they need that, right?
Yeah, 'cause you're doing 8 lots in 20,
Be a little over 2 acres a lot. I think,
right, so 2 acres a lot, it's gonna be, 88,000 square feet. And then,
Yeah, it's a little over 2 acres, so it might be 90,000.
right, so say 90,000 square feet, and 2% of that,
1,800.
$1,800.
So,
So I think the Mountain and Forest District, you would definitely benefit, because
Yeah, that's pretty small.
Yep.
I think that's
Yeah.
that was my set, but that's, other people may disagree.
Well, so it sounds like it should apply then to
It
number four.
should,
Yes,
okay,
Yeah.
yes,
all right.
yep,
All right, my understanding is that it would read like this. 511D, 3 lot sizes, frontage, setbacks, lot width, building footprint, lot coverage, and floor area shall be blah, blah, blah of the, and then finish that sentence.
yep,
And on the same basis, the planning board may allow the following in the rural, mountain forest, and East Lyme districts. And then language as is.
mhm,
That's
Yeah.
good? All right, so shall I write that up and
Yeah,
send
write
it
that up,
to you?
send it out, get it in the minutes.
And then the other thing that I think you had mentioned was whether or not to remove the special exceptions. So, what are people's thoughts? I mean, if we're giving specific numbers, what is the point of the special exception?
Yeah. Unless somebody wanted more than that.
no, that's a variance.
Oh, right. Yeah, so they can still go to the ZBA and
Yeah, is
ask
it,
for more if they want.
yeah, variance, I've always looked at variances, and the ZBA does also, that it is, if there is a, special reason that your property is different than everybody else's, and you can't do what everyone else can do, then that is.
That's the law.
Yeah. And in this case, I am not sure that that would meet the,
Well, I guess from, the question I'm asking is, we could just not do anything. And then people go to the ZBA.
No, that's wrong, I mean, it's, cause we know it's a problem, it's causing
Right.
people hardship, so we don't wanna have them
Do
go
we
to the
need,
ZBA.
so my question, the direct question is, in doing this, are we addressing what we mean to address, and in doing so, do we need to keep the special exceptions, or should we keep the special exceptions anyway?
Is this a good time for a word from the public?
Not right now.
okay.
So, help me out with what's the harm in keeping it?
I'm asking the question, I'm asking the
Because I
people.
don't see the harm,
Okay,
If somebody wanted to go greater than what the planning board allowed, then they could go to the after the planning board has said.
Is that what, when you say, I'm trying to understand your comment.
I think if we're
about
spending all this time and
what's
effort
the
on it,
hardship on, I don't understand
oh,
the hardship.
hold on a second. Yeah,
I think if we're spending all this effort to define limits, if there's already a safety valve in here and we're going to this trouble to define new limits, I don't see the point of keeping the
well,
safety valve in there.
that's also my thought is, then why bother with this? Because if people are gonna be going to the zoning board anyway,
Yeah, this doesn't really have any teeth if we keep these
exactly,
exceptions.
then I
special
would just
exceptions.
rather leave it, go to the zoning board, what's the point?
Yeah, someone
But
comes
I
in and they
think
say,
Vicky's-
oh, I want 6,000 square feet, go to the ZBA,
Right.
same as before.
Yeah, but I think Vicky's right, it's,
No, but the variance
It's
is
a
that,
problem.
they're bringing a hardship, in and of them, on themselves.
But this is a special exception.
No, this
it's
is
not
special
variance.
exception.
Oh, okay, so that's what you're saying.
Yeah, we're talking about
Okay,
special
okay,
exceptions.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were saying,
So the
well,
question is-
the limit was too small.
I think you put it well, why are we doing this if we already have the safety valve? This is really the safety valve, the effort to give one and in a way that is clear to the applicant, that improves their potential situation.
yeah, cause I think if they're gonna lot size average, then they'll know ahead of time what they can do.
What they can do, well,
Otherwise,
but
they
again,
don't know,
but
because
you do have to keep in mind, whether it's this board or another board in the future, the way this is written, they could provide less, but,
Right. But
it at least gives pretty
Yeah.
solid
But it
guidance.
gives you know, the idea that, you know, to be determined by the planning board based on the character of
Yeah,
the land
there's-
neighborhood, there is some, you know, if you're saying I'm going to, fill up my lot completely with, buildings and parking, and driveways, gonna have to put my septic underneath the parking area, cause there's no place else to put it. And, the well, gotta put it way out in the corner because there's, you know, where everything else is just built up. You know, you're preventing that, you're saying,
Right,
you know, you have some leeway in there to say, that really doesn't work.
right. So, are we okay with this? I mean, are we okay with going this route, removing the special exceptions, or do we just wanna leave it and have the applicants go to the zoning board? Cause I agree, I mean, you put it, I think, perfectly, which is, what is the point of this if we're gonna have this and keep that? I think we do one or the other.
So-
Well, I guess the point would be if someone wants to build reasonably sized, say 4,000 square foot homes, they could do that without going to the ZBA,
Right,
right? Whereas now they would have to go get a special exception.
yeah, I
Right.
think that's what we were trying to.
So there's value in that,
Yes, that's was the point.
so maybe we
Yeah,
should, so I can buy into that as an argument to keep both.
Okay, so what would that be? I think you lost me there.
Yeah, maybe that means we that's not an argument.
Because it contradicts what you just said earlier.
Yeah.
Because
No,
they
no, I know,
they can
I
do that
agree.
now. You know, why are we doing this? If we're gonna keep that, let's just ditch this and have them go the same route.
So is it not because we're saying you don't have to go to ZBA for 4,500, but if you want 5,000, you still can?
Yeah,
Or
and
special
my
exception.
question, and I guess my thought would be,
Nothing.
What's so
why
special
why
about
should you,
4,500 that you don't?
why
go to
should
the
you
ZBA?
have a 5,000 square foot house in a,
Well, I don't know, but that's what the special exception's for the ZBA to decide, right?
yeah, but we can provide a limit.
We can decide. What's magical about 4,500 if there's still the special exception?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Well, I've just said it doesn't have to go to ZBA
Doesn't
for
have
the
to go to- doesn't have to go to
4,500.
Yeah, you get up to that point, if that,
That's
and
pretty
if
good.
that works for you,
Yeah.
then great, if not, then it still gives you the option to go to the ZBA for a special exception, which is, I don't wanna say easier to get. I think sometimes the criteria is more difficult in ways.
So, along those lines, so if you look at the criteria, and this was a question I had for you, David. So, for the criteria,
1040.
yeah, there's something in here that says, oh yeah, number 12. The planning board shall review and approve the use of such review and approval as required by this ordinance.
Yep.
This approval may be a condition of the ZBA. Is this like a circular loop here?
No, it's,
It's like the steep slopes,
it's
right?
exactly,
Yeah.
there,
It's just like
if
what?
you look in,
Steep slopes.
if, go back to, 820. And.
820?
Yeah, the 820s, 824, page 47. Expansion of existing structures and construction of accessory buildings or accessory structures within or into conservation districts. And the bottom is, the following requirements after review by the planning board for steep slopes. So, basically that, number 12 of the criteria is if the, planning board is required to review, because of the steep slopes, then, and the same thing happened, with the driveway that you guys just looked at. Steep slopes, the board needed to review and comment on that prior to him going to the ZBA to, get his special exception.
Right, so
So-
that would not apply in this case, you're saying?
Right, because there is nothing written into the special exception that you're, or a special exception that requires, the planning board, unless,
You put that in there.
well, unless they're developing in the steep slopes.
Right.
Because then if you go back to the steep slopes section, I believe that, where are we? Too far. 462, which is the permitted uses and the special exceptions for steep slopes. That requires, but I don't think you'd actually get there for a lot size averaging subdivision, putting a house on the steep slopes, because it's not allowed under the special exceptions. So I don't think you would get through to that.
Right.
I think if you try to put a house on the steep slopes, you hit the basic issue of, under the permitted uses, it's not there, so you can't do
Yeah,
it.
that's, but, so you're saying as, on a practical matter, it's not a problem?
It's not a problem.
Okay, so what's the board's consensus about keeping or not keeping the special exception?
In favor, keep.
Okay,
I'd just as soon leave it, let it go, and they can go for a variance if they wanna.
let what go?
Let that be the limit, that's a generous.
You mean have it be the limit?
Have it be the
So
limit.
take the special exceptions out.
Take them
I
out?
would vote for that, so we just cancel each other out. Okay, that's why we're both here. So it's up to you guys to decide.
My feeling is we're creating a much better situation, and my thinking about it was create a better situation, and provide limits consistent with the purposes of lot size averaging. And relative to the situation now, you're getting a much better outcome. So I'd rather just leave it than go to all this, I mean, I do understand, well, yeah, this would be a convenience, but I don't want it to just be a convenience. I'd like to actually make it very clear and make it a one-step process.
So we're saying that if we take,
Good, and if, I just wanna add to that, cause I mean, part of, there's a big discretionary element to the, lot size averaging, and I think it helps the board to have a clear idea of what's gonna be on the property, whereas, otherwise, we don't know exactly what we're allowing. And how consistent that would be with the purposes of the lot size averaging. So, yeah,
so we're saying if we,
So I'm curious, with regard to that subjective call
Yeah.
that the board makes, if the applicant has problems with that, couldn't they have the right, if we left this language, or outside ZBA,
yeah,
they would then have the right to go to the ZBA?
for a special exception.
For a special.
If we left it, yeah, they would, yeah.
right, and if we take it out, my question, if we take it out, then they have no recourse, they can't ever do
They
anything.
go to and get a variance.
It'd be a higher bar, but they
No,
could.
they can still,
They could
okay.
get
You
a
can always
variance.
ask for a variance, you know, think of a variance as basically allowing you to do anything that's contrary to what's in this.
Right.
As long as it's, yeah, well, okay, then
Or
I,
a decision by the board. Is that a variance, or is?
The zoning board, a variance, basically, whatever you're asking for, you know, there's no limits. You know, a special exception is written into the zoning ordinance that says, you know, we understand that the world isn't a perfect place, and so there are these issues that may come up, that we've recognized that may come up, and here's the way we're gonna deal with them. A variance is,
Rules here, but
the rules are here, but for some reason, your property is different than all your other neighbors, and they can do things you can't. And so here's a way of correcting that, and it's kind of a catch-all, but the criteria is fairly high. You know, and it's basically, you have to show hardship that says, you know, I can't do what my neighbors can do.
So what I just said is neither one of those, it would be an appeal to
It
the
would be,
zoning?
it would be special exception, it would be.
Well, no,
It's-
if
if
we
it's a decision-
decided.
We left it in.
If we had decided 3,000, not the full 4,500, but 3,000 was more
Yep.
appropriate, but they felt differently, what's their
They can-
recourse?
Well, they could go
You
for
mean
a variance.
today, or if we did
If we
this?
did that,
And we took out the special exceptions,
Yes.
variance?
Then, yeah,
then they'd have to.
they'd go to variance.
Well, no,
They-
but you're proposing a case where somebody comes in and we look at the up to 4,500 language and we say, no, for you it's
3,000.
Oh, I see, I
33
see.
because of the
And they
characteristics of the
disagree.
lot.
And they disagree.
Then they'd appeal to the
Then they appeal.
They appeal.
It's an appeal, it's not a variance, and it's not.
I see what you're saying.
Is that right?
Well, it would be,
Yeah, because they'd be appealing our decision.
it would be a variance.
Well, couldn't they appeal our decision?
Only,
It'd be hard with the lot
I guess
size.
they could.
The only-
appeal
Well,
variance.
appealing our decision goes to Superior Court,
Well-
but because in the zoning, they're allowed up to 4,500, because that's what we're writing it for.
but no,
Up to you.
in this
You
case,
get
they would go to the
decide.
zoning board first in an appeal, because they would be appealing the planning board's interpretation of the zoning.
Right.
You're interpreting the zoning that says you can set that number,
And it clearly
and
says that.
they're saying that, no, you
We
made a mistake.
misinterpreted.
Yeah, that the criteria you used to interpret it is wrong.
Right.
And they would argue their case against with the ZBA, and then if the ZBA said no, it would go.
Then they would get a
Right.
variance.
Right, because this is all in the zoning ordinance. If it's a site plan review or a subdivision, then it goes straight to Superior Court, unless it's an interpretation
Okay.
of the zoning that they
So-
feel you've messed up.
I would take out the special exceptions.
I'm inclined to take them out too, but I'd like to think a little bit more about cases where, 4,500, or 3,000, or the 1,500, where those might be binding.
What would be binding?
Where those constraints that we're imposing might be binding, if we're taking out the special exception.
But binding, you mean limiting?
Limiting.
Oh, okay.
Well,
They are limiting.
I know, but I don't have a good handle on how limiting they are.
So how would you go about getting a handle on that?
I don't know.
I think one of the things you need to consider, when you're looking at a lot and saying, okay, you can lot size average, but, this lot you're creating over here is 90% wetlands. You reasonably would wanna, consider reducing the building footprint so that you're not disturbing the wetlands.
Which you couldn't do anyhow.
Well, right, but where you wouldn't be pushing the development towards the wetlands, you might wanna consider,
They need to jigger their lot lines differently so that individual or that lot has better access to.
And that's where I think
land.
this makes a lot of sense for the planning board to be doing this at the time of the subdivision, because you are looking at the lots, you're looking at the conservation districts, you're looking at all of that at one time. And so saying, this lot makes sense to allow the greater, or this lot, it doesn't make sense.
So are you saying that it makes sense to have the language up to, or?
No, I'm agreeing with this because if you approve a subdivision, a lot size averaging subdivision, and say, okay, well, you want a bigger building, all right, go see the ZBA. Now,
We should do it then.
those lots are already set.
Right.
Whereas when you're doing the subdivision, I know you hate me saying the word negotiation, but there is some
Yeah,
give and
I
take.
don't think that's the exact word.
But the idea is that the planning board
There's a back and forth.
There's a back and forth.
discussion.
a discussion about the lot lines, the layout, and then in this case, it would be what the dimensional controls for each individual
Yeah,
lot.
They're all related, they're not separate decisions.
Yeah, right, and
Exactly.
this puts it all in one package.
It puts, instead of
Exactly.
saying, okay, now you're stuck with these lot lines,
And then you're going
and
to
then
see,
you're going to ZBA.
and they're looking at it like, well, wait, it's just, can get really messy.
Right, so I think that by, setting the limits and having it done by the planning board is a much cleaner.
That's what I thought.
And you're saying taking out the special exceptions.
I'm on the fence on that one.
Well, anyway,
Well,
that's,
Yeah, but it's not my decision, but I see both sides that,
Yeah.
What's
there
your
may be
I
cases.
think we should take them out because they can go to the ZBA for a variance. And in other words, if they think it's limiting the 4,500, they can, and all the other lots around them that are bigger, that have more area, they can go to the ZBA and
it's
say.
gonna be,
"Listen,
it's
this
gonna be
is-
tough, because it's a lot size averaging, what are they gonna compare it to? I mean, are we gonna have you know, are they gonna be next door to a lot size averaging?
Well, like I said, you know, I'm not in agreement that just, you know, that let the ZBA catch any problems. You know, this is, you know, or let a variance catch all these problems. I really don't feel that a variance is, it is appropriate for a variance to, you know, I don't like the zoning, so I'm going to apply
Yeah,
for a
but it's
variance.
people's right.
It
people's
is,
right.
but, you know, the zoning board looking at that, it makes it a difficult decision for them to say, you know, okay, you don't like the zoning, sorry.
So to your
But-
point though, I mean, the advantage of this is it's all in one package, we're figuring it all out in the context. And if we keep the special exceptions, then that's really not what's happening.
I agree.
I think that it's generous and it's giving people significant building ability. And, I mean, one of the things about a variance is that you're not depriving a person of their property rights. And I think it's hard to argue that the 4,500 square feet would be depriving.
Well, it's actually,
property rights.
we can show that we're expanding
Right,
their rights.
Right, yes.
If that ever was a legal
Yes,
challenge.
Yes, so I really think that this is, you know, people are gonna win with this provision.
I think so.
being
That's the intent, that we all win. I think our process will be much more coherent,
Mhm.
and the applicants will get, you know, from their point of view, will get a better result. All right, so we got a 4-1 basically with the special
Rusty
exception.
can change his mind.
No, I don't think he is. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and send you the language.
Now, did you wanna talk to Rich? 'Cause-
Oh, you wanted to say something?
I did.
Yeah, okay.
I wanted to follow up on something that Eric said, that, first off, how many of these cases do you have?
Very rare. I mean, in terms of, like, when this came up, I don't remember one. Yeah.
And so one thing I might counsel is, the Pinnacle project would be content with the ability simply to get a special exception. So,
So you'll be able to, because the law
I agree,
is.
I
that
agree,
it does-
but-
won't- You won't
but-
be bound by the new law.
You know,
With the-
let me see me say, and then cause I think I know what you're gonna say. I think the fact is, under, you know, the current ordinance, the existence of the special exception allows for it to be as much as you want. If you had people coming in here every, you know, twice a year to ask for lot size averaging, I would say, to avoid the hassles, it would make sense to pass an ordinance like this.
I gotta disagree with you, because actually, having been through this with your situation is what prompted this. So, and we're also, we can't go on the assumption that things are always gonna be the way they are now. I think we should create the best language possible for the purposes of planning. And in my opinion, this is that.
So the
Okay, but
member of
thank
the public says,
Yeah.
I don't think this is necessary, it's not my call.
Appreciate it, thank you. Did you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just on the clarification for Rich's case as to which law applies, is that based on when you said their
Yeah,
applications were
once,
submitted?
yeah.
Then we follow the existing law at the time?
It's not
Right.
retroactive.
So actually, that's a good question, because,
I would have to,
Yeah.
you've not submitted a lot size
yeah,
averaging
so,
subdivision yet,
so just for your, I think that's exactly right, and don't hold,
Right,
don't hold me to this as
Mhm.
David, but my impression is that if you wanted to, you know, if we went ahead with this and it got voted in, I guess you could consider getting a footholder in there, so I don't know.
right.
So hold it, do you want to be governed by the change, or you don't wanna be governed by the change?
I don't think he does wanna be governed by the change.
I probably would not want to be governed by this change,
Yeah,
and so,
cause the rule is having your application in before the first posting of the change.
before the first posting.
Posting,
And
yes, it's the posting,
Oh, is it the first posting?
posting,
Oh,
yes.
What does that mean?
That means
That's
when,
it.
when a hearing is posted, it basically puts everybody on notice that
Okay.
this is a change that might be happening, and therefore it doesn't allow you to get, lots of applications in to beat town meeting action kind of thing.
Okay, so the deadline is the first posting,
Yeah.
okay.
and then if it's not passed at town meeting, it's all just moot point?
It's a
Right,
moot point.
exactly,
It never happened.
exactly.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna get you that language.
Yep.
And I wanted to, since we have both of you guys here, I wanted to ask you about something from the select board minutes, I think November 8th. So it says, planning board, Keith reported Lockline Lodge came to discuss past and present issues relating to planning and zoning matters. The board discussed putting an article on the 2019 warrant to extend the common district to the North Thetford Road intersection. The sense of the board members was to gather information on this topic and discuss again. I have a bunch of questions about it. Number one, what? And number two, it says, Keith reported Lockline came to discuss past and present issues relating to planning zone matters. And what's the connection between these two
That
things?
was a report of coffee, came to my coffee. That
Yeah,
was what I just reported to the board that was the subject that we wanted to discuss,
the subject was what?
just planning and zoning issues. And
But how did it get to the common district being extended to North Thetford Road?
That's just something that we brought up at the board level, and the board's investigating.
But based on what? I mean, the way this is written, this is what I want, this is what I want a clarification about. The reported Lockline Lodge came to discuss past and present issues
It doesn't have
related.
really anything to do, I wouldn't put the two together.
Okay,
This is
so,
an issue
so,
that the select
did-
board-
you didn't have any discussions with Rich about this type of zoning? I just wanna make clear that that didn't happen.
why would that matter?
Because he was hearing your case at the time,
No,
yes.
I'm not hearing any.
You were hearing, this was November 8th, we heard his case November 8th in the evening. So I wanna make sure that there was no discussion, because there's and my understanding is that there's a juror standard when you sit on a case. If you'd be disqualified as a juror on a case, then you would be disqualified for that type of interaction. I just wanna be reassured that there was no discussion between you, given that that happened before the final hearing. There was no discussion between you that led to, or that covered this topic, because as it's written here, it seems like there was. And I wanted to just be reassured that there wasn't.
First of all, the case that you're referring to was a 4-lot subdivision.
You were hearing a case. Look, I'd like to be reassured that there was no discussion between you.
It's not even just a fact.
I didn't discuss this case.
Can you just reasure me that it didn't
I
happen?
didn't discuss the case, yes.
Yes, that's true.
You
We did
didn't
not
discuss
that.
anything related to the case?
No.
Absolutely. No.
All right, then that's all I wanna know. Thank you. All right, and, updates on the Upper Valley Lake Sunapee?
I have sent everything off to Olivia. She is going to be making the updates, hopefully having it all ready for the next meeting on the 27th.
Okay, so after Dow's?
Yep.
All right, so you're gonna be here, you're gonna be here, and I'm gonna be here, you're not gonna be here, and you're not gonna be here.
I have family staying with me.
maybe.
I'm not gonna be able to come. I would appreciate being able to look at all that stuff, so I could send in comments, but
I have it,
there are just 5 nights that my family's gonna be home, and
I have
I'm not spending it here.
the latest plans for that night, sitting right here to give out to everyone tonight.
I had one question, go back to this again.
Okay,
Is this something we should consider doing a build out for?
it's gonna be,
It's all over town. I mean, all
We
all
could.
those districts.
Well, it's potentially more impactful than the senior housing, wouldn't you think?
actually, I don't think so.
No, it doesn't give you any more lots, it just talks about how many, how big the development is on the lot. Right? No more lots. So
True.
people are allowed to have bigger places, I mean, that was what was brought to our attention, was that it really can.
It's really limiting, right?
Yes, and so this gives them, adequately sized house, and maybe not Autumn Ridge sized houses, but they'll be, good for Lyme standards. And if the driveway and parking doesn't count, I mean, that's all building.
Okay. That's,
Okay?
yeah.
All right, so she's coming on the
Or she's
27th.
not coming, she's going to submit all the.
Oh, she's gonna submit,
So-
so, oh,
All the
so we'll
questions.
have,
You have the new, basically new report with all the changes that you wanted,
oh, so maybe she won't come.
right.
Okay, so.
I wasn't,
Okay, okay,
yep.
yeah.
You've given Mike Mundy's feedback to them, right? They know about that?
yes, they have Mike Mundy's feedback. One other feedback that they should be getting a letter, the well issue with being too close to the parking lot. They've talked to DES about that, and they're supposed to be getting a letter from DES. The ground slopes from the well down to the parking lot.
Once the well's above it.
Yeah. And so any runoff would
So
go
that'd
away
be
from the
okay.
well, and DES didn't seem to have a problem with that, so
Good.
they're supposed to get a letter from DES to say, we don't have an issue with that, it's perfectly fine.
Great.
And, but, till I haven't seen that yet, I gotta,
In these cases, does DES actually come up and look at it? Or
that I don't know.
does Dad call them and say, yeah, it slopes away from the
Well,
driveway?
the
And
thing
they
is
say,
that,
okay.
it's
here's a
about a
letter."
zone of influence, because it sucks in groundwater, and it's not about surface water.
Well, I think
Right.
that their concern is runoff from the
I know.
driveway, but if it's going away from the
We
well,
salted all your,
yeah,
it's just an influence.
anyway, that's,
Yeah.
that will be up to the board to decide. I haven't seen the letter yet, so.
Is anybody else on that well with Tammy's business?
No.
It's not like tied into somebody's residence or anything?
I just was sitting on my desk when I got back, so I don't think that, I didn't see that, I want to double check. Yeah, the letter is actually here on the last page.
So we're good with that?
Yeah, so,
All right, so, lighting regulations, everybody get a chance to look at that? Or did people get a chance to look at it? I guess is the question.
I didn't, I apologize.
Okay, well, you will be, I don't know what the, I don't know what trouble you're in.
What are you gonna do?
What am I gonna
Throw me off the
do?
board?
Exactly, yeah, right, no, that's not a punishment.
shed light on the fact you didn't do it.
Was
There
there-
you go.
What?
was there a draft that I was supposed to look at, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I sent it out by email.
You did?
Well, maybe we should wait until,
I don't
Not this
think I-
one, no,
no?
it
I
didn't go
didn't-
out, no,
I
it's on the
didn't-
agenda.
On
No,
the
it
agenda?
went out,
yeah, I think
I
it went
don't
out
have my
before.
I
email
don't
on.
think I got
Did it go out for previous meetings, or did it
Yeah,
go
it went out,
It went out earlier.
It went
Really a
out-
long time
yeah.
ago,
Oh,
really a long time.
No,
ago.
no, he sent it
I
out,
sent it out
cause I got it.
in
I got it.
November.
Here it is.
November? Oh,
So
man,
anyway, it sounds like,
uh,
all right, so yeah, who doesn't have it?
I
I may have
this is
to file it.
this is beyond my
All right, so Rusty's got it and you got it. What about Tim?
is this not for
It
you?
was sent out in November,
I might,
I'm fairly certain I sent it out in November.
Well, I got it, so.
so I've
Well, maybe-
updated slides, minutes from the last meeting.
Was it, yeah, I was gonna say, was it attached to something else? 'Cause I-
Maybe.
oh, wait, maybe I do have it.
Oh, you do have
I
it?
do have it.
Or is that the old one?
I have
I
it in
just
it.
don't have my.
All right, so, but anyway, so people, let's put that off
Yeah.
so that people, you wanna get
Sorry,
a,
I mean,
get
I
a
got
long
my dog
day?
sick at home, so I gotta get.
Oh, okay. All right, so,
I'd like to read it.
okay, yeah, so Rusty and Eric will have a chance, so we'll push that forward. We've waited long enough, so I think we can wait another. So you and Vicky should be here just because she knows more about this, so we won't take this up at the December 27th. So
January.
December 27th, we just have Dowds,
At
right?
the moment, just out.
And it's just the three of us.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to keep it limited just because.
Yeah, because that's we added that really just to move things along.
And they have their application and everything in for the ZBA for next week.
Oh, good, okay.
I wrote it and sent it to Dave, so
Okay.
it's on my
So you know
computer.
it, okay.
No, I don't know it, I
Do
wrote
you
it.
want,
If you've hard copy.
yeah, I made copies.
Thank you, yeah.
Okay. So we can end, I mean, we could go on forever, but,
I just have a quick,
okay.
Dowds are going to the ZBA for their lot coverage,
Yeah, the variance for their lot coverage for the parking lot.
right, because they're over,
Right, they're way over.
yeah.
What did they say their hardship was?
I haven't, read through it yet. As I have been away. so I'm still trying to catch up.
Yeah.
All right, we can save, further stuff for later, people have
So
had
but they
enough.
already put it in, so, right,
It's hard to, they gotta take it out.
right.
Well,
That's why you
they-
ask before you build.
Well, yeah. All right, anybody have anything else for the time being?
What happened last night at the meeting?
Oh, yeah.
There was, what happened?
So-
Well, I mean, there was a request by the what do you call it, the co-group? There was a vote, and it was voted that, requested that, we asked the select board to provide, 22 something,
2240.
for the consultants to do,
One for.
one forum, so, I don't
So
know,
that
so what?
there wasn't even enough for one forum left?
No,
Oh,
And that's kind of, well, that's what I thought too, when I was at the last meeting before that, was that, at least do one form
Right,
for us, and then we'll decide whether we're
so
gonna
how
raise
did
it.
so-
they decide not to?
how did, what?
Well, I think because
Did them
we use-
revising the slides
I think
take
we
up all
did.
Yeah,
the money?
I do recall that when
So I can
when
make this
the re-
conversation short, by just telling you today that the select board has reviewed the contract, and we're asking them to live up to their contract
Okay.
first. And we will compromise to the point of saying one form will be sufficient to satisfy their contract, but they do have a contract with us. And then we'll wait to see
See
their
what they
response
said.
to that
I mean, I think
before we
The,
decide.
the point is that
That
the
sounds
work
good.
product was not satisfactory, and that's if they chewed up extra hours to
It's not-
produce a satisfactory product, that's their problem.
Right, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So that was the discussion
Okay.
today, and that's pretty much what, that was the decision.
You know,
So
I
you're
think-
gonna talk to them?
There's a request, it may have gone out today already, because
Yeah.
Kevin's actually gonna sign it, so when it's drafted and done.
So you're gonna talk to them, or is it gonna be just a letter or something?
Well, I think there's the written notification first, so it's in writing, because it's a contracted thing, we just want it in writing. I
Okay.
don't know,
And then something will
I
happen.
think council is even gonna review the draft.
I do remember that they said, when there was a request for for better figures and stuff, and the discussion was, would we go there, or would they come here and all of that?
Mhm.
They were telling us that, well, if we come there, it's pretty much gonna eat up our remaining money. That was their point of view. And I guess that's what they feel. In any case,
So they came here on Halloween or
I
whatever.
don't know when
it
it,
Yeah,
what,
they
yeah,
came
how.
through.
Well, they did.
And that
They
was
did,
the.
yeah, and
forum.
they warned us that it was gonna eat up the rest of the money.
Yeah, but I think, Rusty, that's a good.
They didn't.
I recall that,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah.
But I bet, hey, you know what? I have been wrong before, and I will be again.
Well, so that's,
I think
But anyway,
That
that's-
was a good way to.
That's,
a
maybe
good
what
way
they
to
were
that's
approach it.
reasonable, that's reasonable, and
Yeah,
at
that's
if
a
they
least,
good
did that, did they do it in writing so that,
yeah,
they-
at
you're
least
saying-
there's the In answer to your question, the consensus was the best outcome would be to have the people who did all the work up there defending their work instead of us, you know, making a mess of things. You know,
Call Jack, he could probably.
yeah, Jack would definitely make it a mess of things. But I think that's a reasonable thing, you know, see if you can get
So
something.
the other part of it is that we don't know the money situation until another week or so goes by anyhow. So it wasn't in the budget, and the budget is very close this year, so
And
we're
then-
trying to figure out what's available until we see the final bills come in, and we don't know that, so
Right.
that's all on schedule for the 20th, our board meeting the 20th, to have final numbers, and then
20th of December?
And
we're
then
getting down to the wire with this one.
the other thing, Vicky, was that in lieu, assuming we couldn't get them to do it,
Mhm.
we talked about having a moderator, hiring somebody like Kevin Peterson to moderate the meeting.
Well, that's what we did say, if that
Yeah.
didn't happen, then we'd probably ask Kevin Peterson
And
To-
hire him.
to moderate it.
And he would.
But there was discussion about, I mean,
So who's gonna do the presentation?
well, that's the concern. I mean, that's really the
We
concern.
don't need a
Slides-
moderator.
You know
Slides
somebody,
would be
you know
there.
anybody?
Well, I mean, the way it was left,
Well, the moderator would keep.
the moderator
track.
would present everything, and then the questions would go to the group, but I think it's just gonna be utter chaos, really, or it could be.
It's just, how can it possibly be credible
It's
if
not
they're
credible.
not there?
It's not.
And people ask questions and we say, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know.
Or I
don't know.
think, I think.
Maybe they did it this way, yeah, I would've done it differently, but there it is.
And we don't have any more money to do with them, so we can't ask them the questions.
Well, that would be the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the answer. That's the problem.
Could we Skype them in for the?
Well, I mean, maybe, you know, Rusty, when you're talking, I
Oh,
mean, I don't
the audience
mean
are
when you're
not gonna
literally talking to them, but when you're communicating back and forth about it,
Maybe that's an option.
see if there's some option,
To zoom them in. so they
because
don't
I mean, I
come
just
here.
think it's,
It's-
For-
it's-
look, I
There was
mean,
an
for-
RFP, they responded to an RFP, we signed a contract.
no, I understand that, but here's where we are, and we're gonna be having a presentation with no presenters.
And they didn't submit to us any change orders.
Right.
You know,
So in a sense, they've got us over a barrel.
Well, maybe they would negotiate price, you know, maybe the
I think out
2240.
of good faith and everything, we'll see them do one form.
That would
Just
be-
come up and do one form.
That would be
I mean, How
fine.
hard can that be?
How hard can that be? I know. What's the cost, the reputation of their business if they
I was
don't
gonna
do
say,
it one
they'd never get a
form? I mean,
recommendation
really.
out of anyone from Lyme.
Right.
Yeah,
That's exactly
that's
right.
crazy.
Yeah, you think they
So
would.
that's where we are, we're just gonna see. Gotta try and enforce the contract first.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh, well, that's a good
that's
first
good.
step.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
yeah.
You wanna leave? Go ahead.
Thank you.
Hey, the briefcase is on the table.
Yeah, yeah, that's what Jay used to do, is he'd put his briefcase on the table.
Yeah, is that right?
Yeah. Does anybody have anything else that they wanna discuss, or has everybody had it?
Did you grab one of these, John?
Yeah, I got it, let me make sure.
Should say right on the top, Thursday, December 27th,
I'm
2018.
pretty sure I got it.
Merry Christmas.
Yes, Merry Christmas to you, Happy New Year. Oh, no, we'll see you before the New Year, 27th. You're still good for the 27th. Yeah, this one plan,
Yeah, the cover letter, is that, what does it say?
Dad's, December 27th.
And you're good to go.
All right, anything else from anybody else? No? We're all good? We can go? All right,
Motion to adjourn.
yes, that's it. Seconded.
This is-
Yeah, everybody go.
Yeah, this is the way.